Welcome to the Remodeling Reimagined podcast, the podcast that gives you an inside look at the remodeling world from award-winning designers. On this week's pod, Jay Cipriani sat down with our designers to discuss what makes a good remodeling contract and a good remodeling contractor. Without further ado, here is your host, Jay Cipriani.
Hey, welcome to another conversation about remodeling. Today we wanted to talk about why the home improvement regulations are so important to homeowners. Each state sets up regulations that allows contractors, remodelers, builders to work in a particular state. And they're set up to protect the homeowner. Over the years, homeowners have registered numerous complaints with the Better Business Bureau and the Consumer Affairs agencies, experiencing bad results when dealing with the contractors. So the states have come up with certain regulations that we contractors need to adhere by to make sure that we're protecting the homeowner. So with all those different complaints, the regulations have been put together in such a way to be able to protect homeowners. There's like 9 major ones. One of them is you have to be registered with the state. So the state wants to know who you are, what your address is, how long you've been in business. You don't necessarily have to be licensed. So this is not saying that you're a certified builder or a certified remodeler. They just want you registered with the state in case they have to fine you. They want to be able to know where to go. And speaking of that, you also need to make up a home improvement contract for anything over $500. So if a contractor is engaging in a remodeling project with a homeowner and it's $500 or more, there has to be a written contract. So contractors need to make up that contract. There has to be certain things, certain elements in that contract to make sure that the homeowner understands what they're purchasing from the contractor, remodeler, builder. And some of the important things is certainly knowing the address of the contractor. If there's ever a problem, you know where to go to find that contractor, to physically knock on his door and say, hey, I have an issue. Contractors can't give you a P.O. box. The other things that are important is to have the date of the agreement on the contract. That's very important. Also having detailed specifications, and Melissa and Ken, who have joined me today, are going to be speaking about detailed specifications and what that means to the homeowner and how detailed they're supposed to be. Also, what's the cost of the project, and are there any finance costs associated with the contract? So those things have to be in there. Insurance documentation, insurance certificates. So you want to know if the contractor has general liability insurance in case he backs into your car, drops a hammer on your head, burns your house down. You want to make sure that he has general liability insurance. And you also want to make sure that they have workman's compensation insurance, which covers the workers on the project. If a worker falls and the contractor doesn't have workman's comp, the worker can actually sue the homeowner's insurance. So let's say a worker fell, broke his leg. If the contractor can't take care of him insurance-wise, that worker is going to go after the homeowner's insurance company and say, hey, I have these medical bills. I need these medical bills taken care of. So you want to make sure that your contractor has general liability insurance and workman's comp. You also want to know what the payment schedule is. Ken's going to talk about the ways that we do our payment schedule that puts the homeowner in control of the funds. Also in contracts, you have to have the 3-day right of rescission. You have 3 days to change your mind. So if you felt like a contractor, a remodeler, or builder twisted your arm to get into a contract, you always had 3 days to get out of that agreement. And there can't be any fine print, even little things such as no fine print in the agreement. It all has to be a certain font so that it's legible and understandable. So those are just a few of the things that really need to be in a home improvement contract. So we're going to be talking about, the importance of having each of those things in there. And maybe I'll start off with the detailed specifications. Ken, maybe you can start off with talking about the importance of detailed specifications and what that includes.
You got it, Jay. Well, hi, everybody. And I just wanted to thank Jay. I mean, that was an incredible amount of information that he just provided. I'm sure most homeowners didn't realize that all those things that he just said are required in a contract. And it's like, if you didn't know that these things were needed to be there, you might find yourself in a bad contract that's not set up for your protection. So thanks very much for covering all of that. And in terms of how we, as designers, work with some of our detailed specifications are really for the same purpose, that we want to document everything that you have selected and specified for your protection. So other contractors might put in allowances for things or say, yes, you're going to get a sink and a faucet and some kitchen cabinets, but you're not guaranteed anything specifically unless it is detailed. So we as designers help you through the entire selection process, and then we painstakingly put into your agreement for every facet of your job, your kitchen cabinets, your countertops, your faucets, all the way down to the knobs, everything that you've picked. So we're including the make, the model, quantity, finish, everything that specifies your exact item so that you know exactly what you're getting. It also helps us from a production standpoint, is because everyone will now have a copy of that agreement. And who do I mean by everyone? Well, most importantly, that's going to be your project manager, so that they have every detail about your job spelled out in front of them with easy reference, so that they're not going to miss any details and they're going to know every little item about your job.
And Melissa, can you talk about why it's so important to have detailed drawings? It's one thing to write in there to, install a cabinet over the stove, but certainly having a 3D picture to be able to completely understand what it's going to look like, how important that is.
It's always a challenge for a lot of people to visualize what anything different is going to look like. So we sit here and we talk about things that we know like the back of our hand every day. Oh, this is going to be a cabinet that's 36 inches tall with crown molding. Customer doesn't know exactly what that looks like or what's the overall vision of your space going to be. So by having detailed drawings, the cabinets are going to be to the ceiling. You know that their drawer bases are where the drawer bases need to be. And it also, so you can visualize the overall feel of the space. And again, each cabinet is going to tell you what size it is, how tall it is, how wide it is. Does it have crown molding to the ceiling? Does it have a trash pull out, a spice pull out? So again, all these little details that we talk about during the design process, are physically going to be in the kitchen when it happens. As well with drawings of just cabinets, if you're doing a bathroom and you want the tile set horizontal, you want the picture to show you that it's set horizontal, because you might not think, oh, I thought it was the other way. So having pictures and diagrams just double checks everything that we visualize of what's actually going to be in your space. And Ken mentioned the project manager. We spend so much time designing a project. The project manager is the one that's actually building it. So it's giving them all those details that we might have had conversations about. Well, we might not remember every one of those little conversations. That's why it's documented into your agreement that everybody's looking at the same thing at all times. So if there is a mistake, it can be figured out and before the tile gets installed or before the cabinet's installed in the wrong place, that we're all looking at the same thing.
Yeah, that old saying of a picture's worth 1,000 words. I know when I review some of your agreements that you put together with homeowners, you have a picture of the faucet in there. So there's like no mistake of what that faucet looks like. You have a picture of the sink and what that looks like, whether it's an undermount, a self-rimming sink. pictures of windows, pictures of doors, because it's hard to be able to understand what the model number says. You know, if it says an Anderson 3642, you know, it's hard to visualize what that's going to look like on a wall. But when you're looking into a drawing that's prepared using our 3D software, you know, you can easily see how easy it is to visualize how far off the wall it is, how low from the ceiling it is, how far the sill is off the floor. Visually, it really helps out.
Jay, there's actually two more great benefits that a lot of times that we don't think about. One, you know, you went and you picked out the faucet and you know it's Moen or it's Kohler. Well, it's going to say that in your agreement. And then when the box shows up at your house, it's going to say that on the box. There's no baiting and switching for something that looks the same that isn't the same. And the other thing is, I'm not saying that a manufacturer has never sent the wrong item or the box was mislabeled. By having all that information that we're all looking at the same thing, the project manager has a backup to, oh wait, this faucet it's black, it's not brushed nickel. You know, it just alerts them that something isn't right too. So there's a lot of aspects of having that information, you know, written out with pictures and model numbers.
Right. It's so important to get that detailed specification. That's where most homeowners and contractors get into an issue. You know, it's like at the beginning or halfway through the project, you know, the contractor thinks that they were installing one thing and the homeowner thinks they were installing something else. And that's when, you know, the homeowner and contractor start butting heads. But having it in writing, in drawings, having photographs in the agreement or the contract is so helpful for everyone.
And it's really a shame that that's not standard practice. It's something that we've learned to do because it helps to avoid problems, and it's also for the protection of the homeowner, but it's really not something that your typical contractor is going to take the time to document with you. So you run a risk of having problems in the middle of a job. But Jay, you were talking about some other elevations in drawings, having those in your contract too. So I know that when we are working in bathrooms, a lot of times people like certain things at a preferred height. For example, a robe hook or a towel bar, even the medicine cabinet, because everyone has their own height and their preference for where they would like these things to be. So we have conversations like this about details that are important to every homeowner. They don't realize that they can actually designate where they place things. So height elevations. We work that through with you, and then that is something that we can also specify in our agreement. So if you want your robe hook to be a little bit lower because you may not be the tallest person in the world, we'll set that height for you, so you don't have to come home at the end of the day and look and say, oh gee whiz, I wish that was placed different. So we specify all of those things out and then put them in the drawings as well, where we can tick off specific measurements.
Right, it's just so important to get all that information into an agreement or contract before the homeowner okays it. You know, years and years ago, when I first started in business, and this had to be decades ago.
You're aging yourself.
Yeah, a little bit. So I did hear these two contractors. They were having a contest between themselves. They said, you know, they were betting on who could write the shortest contract for a homeowner. So one contractor wrote up a contract that says remodel the hall bathroom that's 5 foot by 8 foot, install ceramic tile on the floor, install a tub and a faucet. Not a lot of detail, no brand name, model number, color, size, quantity for anything. And the other contractor wrote up a contract that said install one bathroom, make beautiful. And the homeowner signed it. So, you know, it just goes to show, you know, homeowners need to be watching out for contractors. Certainly they weren't abiding by the New Jersey or Philadelphia or Pennsylvania or Delaware home improvement regulations, but, you know, it's buyers beware.
Well, I think when they don't have those things, you're just in an uphill battle if something doesn't turn out like you expected it to, or, there's a fight and that's where, you paid for the job in full and it's not what you thought it was because the customer took a 50% deposit beforehand and a 50% when they started.
Yeah, and I mentioned that we were going to, chat a little bit about, payment schedules, and that's one of the things that's required with the home improvement regulations is how it's going to be paid for. What's the payment schedule look like? So Ken, you want to talk about one of the best ways to do it for homeowners so that they protect themselves?
Absolutely, and that's a really good perspective. It's really about protecting yourself because we believe that when you're in control of the funds, you have the power, you're at a good comfort level. So we're not asking up front like other contractors for a third of the contract or half here or anything like that. We have a very easy system. It's known as Safe Pay, and there's some more information about it on our website. But the whole idea is that we just ask for a small retainer to begin to develop your project, because we've talked about all of the selections that go into your project, if it's a kitchen or a bathroom, or if we're doing some interior remodeling. There's so many things to select, and that retainer allows us to make these decisions together. And we're also doing site visits to make sure that we are understanding your project and we're taking everything into consideration as we go about getting final pricing. So we're very, very unique in that way. And when I tell people, I always get this kind of surprised or like shocked look on their face because they're expecting that they've got to write out a really big check. And I just say, no, we just ask for that little retainer. Let's get this project in development so you know exactly what it's all going to look like and be when it's all finished.
I mentioned about, how at the end of each week they're checking the work out and approving what's going to be paid next.
Yeah. So then people are like, okay, that sounds great. A modest retainer. Fantastic. Now, when do I owe you that big check just to get onto your schedule? So we're very unique. We don't ask for a check like that, but we do have a payment schedule. And we don't ask for another payment until after your job begins. So we give you that ahead of time, that payment schedule, which will have different points in time, different events, things that are happening. So at the end of week 1, we'll say, okay, we've started demolition. That has a little check next to that box. We've started with rerouting electric wires. So that checks a box, and so on that Friday, the end of the week, those are the 2 milestones that we've passed, and then you know what your payment will be. And then that happens on a weekly basis. So as we progress, payments are in proportion to where we are in the course of the job.
So basically they're approving the work before they pay for it. So at the end of the week, they check everything out and say, yep, I'm happy with the demolition. I'm happy with the wiring, rerouting, and I'll pay for that portion. And as things progress, at the end of the following week, they'll check that work and then pay for that work.
And that's
your clients like that, right?
Yeah, it's a huge benefit because you hear so many horror stories from customers. You hear about them on television and you think, oh, that could never happen to somebody I know or somebody I talk to. It does happen. They pay large deposits in cash sometimes, and the contractor never shows up. So let alone they're out their deposit, they don't know where to go find that contractor. All they did was give them a piece of paper that I'm going to do this, this, and this, and here's 10, 20, whatever, $1,000, and they never show up. So it's a real safety feature for a customer, that they know we're going to show up when we're supposed to show up. And you're going to pay us, kind of broken down on a weekly basis. And then I always tell people your final payment isn't due until everything on your quality control list is complete. So I'm coming back. We joke, and it's not really a joke, but it's not the tail light warranty. Like as soon as you stop seeing my lights, I'm gone. No, we're going to come back and fix it because that's when your final payment's due. So you know we're going to be there with you through the whole process.
And Ken, explain the quality walkthrough, how we generate that punch list before they make that final payment.
Yeah, absolutely. So as your job is starting to finish up, there might be a few details that we know that we want to button up, and we'll write those down so that you know that they're going to be addressed. If you have anything to contribute, you want us to go over again and look at more closely or fine tune, we always invite that kind of feedback so that we start to compile your quality control list. And we have an operations manager, Pete Del Rossi, and he's fantastic. He is so well versed in so many different trades. He has different licenses, electric being one, but he has that fine eye for detail. And so he goes through and looks to make sure everything that's been done is up to our standards, looks fantastic. And if he finds anything, well, that starts that quality control list too. And then everything on there is immediately addressed so that we can finish up your job in a timely manner.
Yeah, and one of the things on our punch list or quality control walk is my annoying requirement that every switch plate or outlet screw has to be straight up and down. So the screws can't be crooked. They have to be straight up and down. So Pete will go around, make sure that all those screws are straight up and down. So that's the kind of detail that we're looking for, and those are the types of lists that we put together before we ask for the final payment. So as Melissa was saying, you know, sometimes the homeowner will make the final payment, and a week later they find a couple punch list items and they call the contractor, and it's like you never can get the contractor back. But if you're still holding all money, as Ken was talking about, you know, whoever controls the funds has the power. So, gee, you know, I can get the final balance if I just come back and, you know, adjust the doorknob and, you know, clean up the sawdust in the backyard. Gee, I'm going to come right out to take care of those two little things to get the final payment. So it's so important to make sure that the homeowner has that retainer at the end, that they're not paying you know, all the money at the very end of the job. Make sure that you always have some dollars.
I think it's funny, we mentioned a couple times about different aspects, but we keep on talking about time and schedule and how important all that stuff is. And one thing, Jay, you said in the beginning is, you know, when you sign and you finalize your agreement, you know, it all has to be signed and dated. Also, you need to make sure you're getting a start date and how long the project's going to take in writing. Because another horror story you hear from contractors is they were here for 6 months. Well, why were they there for 6 months? Well, they showed up and then they had another job and they went to that job. You know, we are very particular with our schedules, and you get a start date and how long your job's going to take. And then the project manager, once they're assigned to the project, is breaking it down on a daily basis. You're going to know what's happening every day. And then that schedule coordinates with the payment schedule that Ken talked about. So you're going to know what's due, when it's due, what's being done, when it's not being done. And for some reason, is if there's a delay, it's construction. You know, sometimes things happen. You're going to know about it. We don't want to be in your house for 6 months, and you don't want us to be there for 6 months.
Yeah, that's a huge one, and I did forget that one. That's very, very important, is when is the project starting? When is it finishing? You hear all the horror stories. Yeah, it took 6 months to finish my powder room. That should have only taken 3 weeks. So yes, we as contractors are supposed to have a start and completion date, and if we can't make that completion date, we have to notify the homeowner in writing why we can't meet that completion date and what's the new one. You know, so
Jay, I don't know if you remember last year or the year before, I had the customer that was adamant on what happens if we take longer than our dates in our contract. Adamant on what are we going to do? And it was such a hard conversation to have because it's never really happened. Like when we tell you we're there 6 to 8 weeks, we're there 6 to 8 weeks. Well, he wanted to know what happens if we're still there at week 10. I don't know because it never happened.
Right. Well, I've told homeowners in the past that if they want to add a penalty clause, that they can. You know, for every week that you miss the completion date, it costs you $500. It costs a contractor $500. So homeowners can ask that if they're that leery of the contractor's reputation. They can say, well, I want a penalty clause in there if you don't meet your delivery date, your completion date, that I want to be compensated for it. So, you know, that's something homeowners can ask for. Anything else you want to add to this conversation?
Well, I know something we always share with people, and you know, when you mention that there's a street address and not a P.O. box, you know, we always say when you call the phone, somebody's going to answer. You show up at the front door during typical working hours, somebody's going to be sitting at the front to greet you. There's always going to be a way to get a hold of somebody. It's not just my cell phone number, your cell phone number. You know, if I didn't answer my phone, you can knock on the front door and somebody's going to be there. And I think that's important, you know, just that guarantee that if something did happen, you know where to go.
Right. Yes, and another important thing that we mentioned earlier is warranties and how important they can be. A contractor doesn't necessarily have to give a warranty. You can say that there's no warranty on the project. Most contractors do. And if you're getting a warranty, you want to know how long it's in effect for and what does it cover. And you also want to get the manufacturer's warranties as well. You know, you want to know ahead of time what those warranties are. If you find out that, gee, this particular brand of windows only has a warranty of 3 years, you want to know that up front before you okay the final contract. You might say, well, gee, 3 years doesn't sound long. What's a better quality window? Oh, Anderson, they have a lifetime warranty. Okay, I want to use. I'll pay a few more dollars for an Anderson product. So, you know, knowing those things up ahead of time before you okay the final agreement. So knowing those warranties is important. Not finding out once you need the warranty, oh, gee, you know, it ran out 3 years ago. You don't want to know that. You want to know what the warranties are before you okay the final agreement. So
I always like to ask customers, you know, clients when we're done or during the process, you know, why'd you pick us? And I had a customer who told me it was your warranty. And I was like all offended. I'm like, it wasn't me? She's like, nope, it was your warranty. She's like, but you came in a close second. I'm like, all right, thanks. So, you know, that was very big to them, is what the warranty was and what was covered and how it was given to them in writing. That was their deciding factor, was the warranty.
Right, we do have a good warranty on material and labor, and we also have a lifetime service guarantee. You know, 15 years from now, you have an issue with a product, we'll come out and see if we can service it. So, you know, we've gone back and take care of projects from 15, 20 years ago. A homeowner would call up and say, I'm having this issue. We would go out and see if we can service it for them. Most of the time, we're able to do that very quickly. So finding a contractor that's going to stand behind the work is very important as well.
Jay, my favorite warranty story is, I remember hearing, and I don't quite know how long ago it was, but somebody called that their shower pan had cracked. And it was 10, 15 years later. Now we know by then the shower pan was not defective, you know, things like that. But you went and took care of it. You didn't question, like, how did it happen? We went and took care of it. And that's where you don't get, like you said in the beginning, that butting of the heads.
Yeah, and they were surprised as well as some other homeowners when we said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. And they're like, really? You'll take care of it? Yeah, we actually said to them, and I remember that particular case where we just said that shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have cracked. The bottom of the acrylic tub had failed and had fallen out. It actually had dropped about an inch. So we said this never should have happened. We'll take care of it. And they were so thrilled and surprised that we would come out, tear out that tub and shower unit, put a brand new one in, and they were amazed. So we covered a lot of different things that need to go into a contract to make homeowners feel safe and comfortable. Certainly detailed specifications, certainly a payment schedule that puts the homeowner in control of the funds, certainly warranty information, and we mentioned insurance certificates. You certainly want to make sure that the contractor has the proper amount of insurance, and that it also includes the workman's comp. So we hope this has been a education on what to ask a contractor for, and we'll pick up on some of these other topics, some of these other requirements by the home improvement regulations in another episode. But thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Ken, for your participation, and we'll wrap this one up, and we'll see you at the next series.
Once again, thanks for tuning in, everyone. And if you're looking to start a remodeling project, you can learn more about our design process at CiprianiRemodelingSolutions.com, and you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.